Afternoon all. I'm just sat in the park currently, and that gave me inspiration for the next video for Living World. Because it's everywhere you look. If you're in a park, you'll see this, so it is quite practical learning. So let's start off with, first of all, what is an ecosystem? Well, basically, an ecosystem is a community of living and non-living things. Everywhere I'm looking now, I can see animals, I can see people, I can see plants. They're living things. If I look up in the sky, I can see the sun, I can see the ground, the dirt, the mud, stones, twigs. They're non-living things. So that's what an ecosystem is. Now, a biome is basically a massive ecosystem. Okay, so you've got an ecosystem like anywhere. A tree is an ecosystem, and a biome is a large ecosystem. So a large community of living and non-living things. The desert, the rainforest, the deciduous forest, for example. Now, every ecosystem, every biome is made up of living and non-living things. To make ourselves seem smarter, geographers call them biotic and abiotic factors. So bio means living, is a living thing. I am a biotic factor in this park, as is the tree behind me. An abiotic factor is something that's non-living, so a puddle, mud, soil, the sun, for example. So that is basically the ins and outs of what an ecosystem is and what it's made up from, with some examples, obviously. And this is where you can look at different food chains and food webs. So a food chain is a linear chain, like a necklace, if you will, of animals that transfer energy from one to another by eating them. I'm a vegetarian, as some you guys will know, but those of you that eat animals will eat animals for calories, which gives you energy. That's the whole point. So the reason why a spider eats a fly is for energy to survive. Something eats something else, something eats something else. It's a food chain. Now, a food web, very simply put, is like a spider's web. It's lots of different food chains mixed together. So a food chain is linear, a straight line, and a food web is lots of different lines in an ecosystem. So in the case of the small scale ecosystem, your deciduous forest, technically the biome of the UK where I am now, I suppose, there is non-living and living things, as I've said already. And the last thing I was going to say in this video is about the nutrient cycle. It's one of those fiddly ones that you'll never get a 9 marker on it, but it could easily come up as a 4 or a 6 marker. It's just important you know what it is and how it works. Basically, the nutrient cycle, like any cycle, is the transfer around of nutrients in an ecosystem. Geography is not really that hard. So a nutrient cycle is the cycle of nutrients around an ecosystem. How do nutrients get from one thing to another? How does everything live? Because there has to be something to live. This tree behind me needs nutrients to live. So do I. So does animals around us. So the nutrient cycle is the transfer of nutrients around a cycle, and it happens in different ways. First of all, you have to remember, and I'll put a picture of this as the the picture for this video of the nutrient cycle in an environment. They look different in different environments, of course they do. But nutrients have to get around here for that tree to grow, for animals to grow, to survive. So first of all, nutrients are stored in 3 different ways. The first thing is biomass. So that living tree there, that living thing, any animal around here, a living thing, is where nutrients can be stored in. Okay? The next way nutrients are stored is in the soil. Okay? In the soil around here, there are nutrients in there that means the grass can grow, which means the trees can grow. And the third place there are nutrients is this thing here. Now this is not a leaf from a tree that's still living. This is dead now. It's fallen out of the trees. It's starting to be autumn, isn't it? So this right here is called litter. Not quite the litter in terms of like cans of Coke and things like that people leave in the park. But litter is in natural dead animals and dead plants. So you have the soil, you have the biomass, and you have litter. Now nutrients are in all 3 of those things, and they get transferred around ecosystems in different ways depending on what the biome / ecosystem is. For example, if I was in the desert right now, there's not very much biomass at all. There's not many trees, not many animals at all. In terms of here, loads of trees. So it is slightly different. The amount of nutrients that transfer around do vary, but it is the same 3 stores everywhere you go. So let's start in the biomass. That tree there gets its nutrients, okay? Where does it get its nutrients from? The soil. Okay, the soil has nutrients in there. So the biomass takes in nutrients from the soil, if it's a tree, for example, through the roots, or if you're biomass, like you're an animal, where do you get your nutrients from? Other animals, so other biomasses, so to speak. So biomass gets energy from the soil and from biomass as well. Where does the soil get its energy from? The litter. So as this leaf decomposes, as I put that back on the ground, the nutrients from that decomposition of a dead leaf, a dead animal even, that will go into the soil and give it nutrients. If I die right here, right now, on this grass, and no one moves my body will go into the ground over time. It will decompose, it will stink quite a bit, but the soil will get nutrients from that and the grass can grow from it. And obviously the litter happens from animals and plants dying, or from the falling of leaves from the trees, for example. So they all move around. The nutrients move around the cycle, and that means the animals can live, it means the plants can live, it means that it sustains an ecosystem. Okay? Nutrients can be lost. So for example, if I, for example, find an animal here, or an animal finds an animal and takes it away and eats it, the nutrients are lost from that ecosystem. But also leaching. So in the rainforest, for example, if it rains really, really, really heavily and it's not a flat trajectory, the nutrients can be washed away and washed out of the ecosystem. I said before they're all different in different ecosystems. The desert doesn't have leaching, does it? Because there's no rain in the desert, or very, very little rain in the desert. So the conditions, the climate, the weather, the different types of plants and animals alter the state of the nutrient cycle, but ultimately it's the same everywhere you go. So remember the three stores: litter, biomass, and soil. The nutrient cycle is a transfer of nutrients around an ecosystem, and the size of the store, so in like the picture I put on the thumbnail, the size of the circle is the amount of nutrients in that store. So if, for example, here the biomass circle will be really big, in the desert it'd be smaller. Same thing for soil, same thing for litter. And yeah, that's basically it. Any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll see you soon for the next one. Take care, guys.